So I'm going to do a demonstration of what happens in your immune system when there is an invader inside the body. So here we have an invader that's just floating around inside the body. So what happens is we have what's called the plasma B cell. So this is what makes antibodies. So antibodies attach to invaders to basically signal that they need to be destroyed or they need to be checked out. So they're going to attach to this invader so that the other cells know, oh my gosh, this should not be in the body. What is it? Should we get rid of it? So then we don't need our plasma B cell anymore. So then we're going to have the macrophage, as we talked about before. So it sees that antigens have been attached to this invader and it says, oop, we need to get rid of this. We need to do something. So it's going to gobble it up. It's going to ingest it. So then it's going to deteriorate that into proteins. So then that macrophage is then going to bring that information to another cell, which is called the helper T cell. So that helper T cell is going to come, it's going to gather that protein information that the macrophage has digested. And the helper T cell is kind of like the gossiper of our immune system. It wants to tell everybody about the information that it just received. So the helper T cell is going to give that information to memory B cells so that the memory B cells remember this foreign invader for future so that the immune system can respond much faster. So the memory B cells need to know this information for the plasma B cells to be able to make antibodies faster. So if it comes into contact again, the plasma B cell will make antibodies much faster to attach to that invader. So the last situation is going to be a little bit different. So the invader has now gone into the cell. So we have my cell there. The invader has gone through my cell membrane and is inside the cell. So this is extremely dangerous and we need to stop it before the cell reproduces. So what's going to happen is the macrophage, in this case, it cannot ingest our cell. So we need something different. So if you remember, we talked about the helper T cell. That's going to be our gossiper. So it's going to spread this information to yet another cell. It's going to say, we have an invader, we need to do something about it. So we have what's called the killer or cytotoxic T cell. So this one actually can destroy your own cells. So what it's going to do is it's going to send toxins into the cell, and the cell is going to die, and the invader is going to die with it. So the interesting thing is you can actually destroy cancer cells with this. The only problem is the killer T cell is extremely slow compared to cancer. Cancer rapidly reproduces. So there's some research to try to figure out if this can help. The memory B cell is going to store that information as well as what's called a memory T cell. So now we're going to look at how we can assist our immune system. So our immune system's not perfect, it needs a little help sometimes. So we're going to look at antibiotics and vaccines. So the first one, antibiotics. So we've already talked about this many times. So this only helps to destroy bacteria. So if you have a bacterial infection, we can assist it pretty easily by taking an antibiotic. So this is going to slow their reproduction and break down their cell wall. So some people think antibiotics and antibodies are the same. Antibodies are going to mark things to be destroyed. Antibiotics are actually going to do the destroying. So it's a little bit different. And we talked about this before. The immune system does not become immune to antibiotics. It's the bacteria resist the antibiotics. All right, so vaccine history. So the first known things were to take the actual viruses or bacteria and have people inhale them or rub the secretions on their broken skin so that these things would get into the body. So basically just giving them the disease. So this can become extremely dangerous because you're essentially giving people the disease. So in 1796, Edward Jenner invented another type of vaccination. So he knew that dairy maids contracted cowpox, never got smallpox. So cowpox is not as bad as smallpox. So he would purposefully give those people cowpox so that if they came into contact with smallpox, they would now be immune to it. So obviously not everybody accepted these things. So if you think about today and how some people do not agree with vaccines, it was the same thing but way worse back when they first came out. So modern vaccines that we have, it does not have a live bacteria or the entire virus. What we do is we have a killed bacteria or fragments of a virus because we want it to be a small immune response. We don't want it to be a full-blown response because we know these things can kill you. So if you give a small little bit of these bacteria or virus, it allows our immune system to be able to fight it off easily, and then it's going to create those memory T and B cells to be able to fight it again when we encounter it. So basically giving us that immunity that we know of. All right, so some vaccine myths. So the flu vaccine, some people say they don't get it because they don't want to get the flu from the vaccine, but you cannot get the flu from the vaccine. It's only a part of the virus. It's not the entire virus, so it cannot take over your cells. What you're actually feeling is the side effects due to your immune system. So if you get a fever, etc., it's just your immune system trying to destroy that part of the virus in the body. Some people say your immune response is better if you have the actual disease versus just a vaccine, but it's the same. So if you have only part of the virus injected versus the entire virus, no matter what, the second time you come into contact with that, your body's going to react the same way. And the last thing, vaccines and autism, there is no support that shows they are linked in any way. So all three of these are myths. If you have any other things that you're not sure about, just let me know. You can post it or email me. So we're going to look at the correlation between vaccination and the number of cases. So looking at the bottom graph, you can see that the number of cases were really high in 1980s. But as we had more people receiving the measles vaccine, you can see the increase in the vaccine, the decrease in the number of cases. So you can see that the measles was contained pretty well by having this vaccine. But in the last few years, the top graph, you can see that the cases have increased, and that is due to the number of vaccinations that have decreased. So you can see on the side the reasons why. So some people refuse, some people, their religious or philosophical beliefs didn't go with vaccination, or there was just no record of some of them. All right, so we'll leave off here. So why will antibiotics work against bacteria but not viruses? So you should know the answer to this.